medically understood.
Hey there, folks. Mark Edwards here, and this is the Ultraviolet Podcast. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Noah Samsen. I have a hard time believing that there's anybody who is listening to my podcast who doesn't already know who Noah is. But if you don't, he is a YouTuber who spends a lot of his time dissecting the Manosphere and other like really toxic dating, male-dominated, adjacent shit shows online, both on YouTube and TikTok, as well as providing leftist feedback. And he's got a really great catalog of YouTube videos that everybody should check out. And I was really happy to get him on the show. In the conversation, we talk first about what it's like being a YouTuber and growing as a content creator. And we get kind of in the weeds on what it's like to start monetizing your channel, which for me is really important because that's something I'm interested in doing. And also there are a lot of people out there who are trying to grow themselves online, to grow their brand. And it's very opaque. If you're a small content creator, you don't really know what you're getting into. So we talk about that for a little while. And hopefully that's helpful information for people out there who are trying to break into this content creator space. And for those of you who aren't, it'll give you some insights into what people like us deal with when we're trying to make a living doing this. And then we get into the meat of the conversation, which is dissecting the Manosphere, which is this cesspool of vaguely red-pilly dating advice, pickup artist, misogynistic fuckwits on the internet who, unfortunately, a lot of young men are very susceptible to. And we talk about that. We talk about effective ways to counteract them, how to build positive masculinity, and what we can do as bros on the internet to make that space less appealing for young men, which is something that's really important to me, and it's something that I've thought a great deal about. So I was really happy to get Noah on to talk about that because he also has spent a lot of time in that space and dealing with those people. It was a really fun conversation. Noah's always great to talk to, so it was great to have him on. As far as content warnings, we hit all like the big manosphere shit, so misogyny, transphobia. We talk about racism. We talk about the intersections of the manosphere and the alt-right pipeline. So there's mentions of, right-wing reactionaries as well. If any of that's going to cause you psychic damage, you know the deal. Not going to take it personally if you skip this one. For everybody else, I will not keep you from Noah any longer, and I give you Noah Samsen. I'm really shitty with like cold opens, so I don't even know how to get into this. But like Noah, thanks for so much. Fuck me. See, Noah, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. How's it going?
It's going good. I was just doing like some Photoshop for a thumbnail, which is I've been like harassed into by like multiple people into making good quality thumbnails for my YouTube channel, and I am under duress actually starting to learn how to do that. I'm sure you are very good at your thumbnails, so you know the struggle.
Oh yeah, click-through rate. It's a very, very serious thing. I love the way you frame it as being harassed into it, because it is like people who are really on that shit really want everybody else to be on it in a good way. It's like a very loving gesture. Like, yo, your thumbnail's ass, bro. That's just not going anywhere. It's like, honestly, thank you for telling me that. That's good to know, but hurts a little bit. It's okay. But yeah.
No, in all fairness, my thumbnails were actually ass. Like they were just screen grabs from the interviews. So like,
yeah, that's tough.
But I am now putting in some effort. So Noah, you are, for the people that somehow are watching my channel but don't know who you are, which I imagine is like two people. For those two people, who are you and what do Noah do?
I'm Noah. Noah do YouTube videos. I've been doing a lot of videos about like the Manosphere lately, but I kind of started about a year ago, entering the left politics essay type space. Um, it's kind of like a mixture of commentary as well, like I don't quite call myself an essayist because I know like there's too many way smart like they're good writers, well refined essayists that I watch. And like one day maybe we'll try to be that, but like I'm gonna just try and incorporate that. Like I'll write a couple things down, but mostly it's just like like trying to make it entertaining and fun on YouTube. But yeah, that's what I do, and yeah, happy to be here. So.
Yeah, you do. So is most of your stuff like free form, or like how do you approach like your content, making it like?
I've like over the course of the last year basically functioned on a similar approach for videos, which is like I find something that kind of like weirds me out or bothers me, or like I find something that's like, hey, this is pretty bad, and then from there I either start writing, um, structuring out like a critique of it that's either strict criticism or like more comedy focused. And then I guess like there are some different projects that I've done. Like I did the video that blew up my channel was this practical guide to leftist YouTube, which is where I like compiled a bunch of my favorite creators that I like. I just discovered all like what left leaning content was, and there's kind of like a little ecosystem. Um, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Let's like talk about this. And so I made a video on that. And then yeah, I guess a couple of things like that. But generally speaking, it's like you just kind of find something, think about a way to talk about it, and then my earliest projects were about like TikTok guys, and I still do that sometimes. But like I was using TikTok a lot at the time that I started, and it was like finding weird guys and being like, why is nobody pointing out this dude's just saying bullshit for 10 million people on his channel? Like, why is that? This is interesting. I don't know, and so it's kind of grown from there. But yeah,
Yeah, I think I found your how did I think I found your content by way of the Practical Guide to Left Tube, was what I did, and then I went back and like binged your stuff and like all the various typo guys that you have cataloged, which we can maybe get into that. I think that's a big thing we can spend a lot of time talking about, but I want to spend a little bit more time on just like how Noah approach the internet thing, because you have like a pretty, I think, unique like way of doing things. Like I have a friend who does not do anything with YouTube, let alone like LeftTube, and he actually knows who you are and like told me about you and was like, "This is somebody that you might want to check out." And I was like, "I mean, you're right, but that's um, it's weird that you filtered up to that part of the world. So like you have like a reach that's a little broader than I think a lot of other people in quote unquote LeftTube might be. So like I don't know, like how do you I don't know. Like, what do you do with that? I'm a
yeah,
shitty
that's
interviewer.
no, you're good. You're good. That's really interesting. I think like a part of it is I like there's a definitely communal aspect of left leaning content, and I think I remember starting out on the BreadTube subreddit, like watching people's stuff, trying to learn, see what was going on, and I noticed a definite like community aspect that keeps things within certain boundaries. My focus has always been on just like growing as much as I can, and it's like a YouTube psychopath approach to it. Like I'm like I'm very intrigued by the algorithm and growing and things like that, and so I've always framed content like I've definitely taken not liberties, but I make sure to present stuff in a manner that even if it's like make sure to present stuff in a manner that's like focused on growth and focused on like getting the message out to the most amount of people, and like in a way reaching normies or like reaching people
Mhm.
that may not be political necessarily. And obviously some videos have more of an approach to that, but like anytime I cover something on TikTok, that's basically what you're doing is you're appealing to, or you're reaching out to a crowd of people that like is huge, massive crowd of people that like watches TikTok and potentially would benefit from making sense of something that like they saw on their page, that a lot of people saw on their page, but no one's made sense of it in a longer form. And so, yeah, just keeping things entertaining, trying to be funny, whatever that means, and then focusing on growth because, like, it's like a meme about leftists being like super like, here's a full, I'm going to drop an audiobook of Capital like on my channel, and that's going to be my first video and shit. And like I love, like I have so much
Yeah.
love for all, like a lot of the harder core political people, and I think it's super important. That's why I try to direct people that direction, in like channel people from a broader audience to the more finite, to the more like specific resources about just leftism generally. But ultimately I have positioned myself as more of a catalyst of like, just fucking grow as much as you can. And if it makes me a YouTube psycho, I mean, it definitely does, because I'm like, I want to be like a giant guy, like secretly. That's my motivation. Not even secretly, I mean, we all want to grow, right? That's the whole
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But I've definitely like use that. But I've learned a lot over the course of time in terms of like I've had some shitty stuff happen in terms of like, not shitty experiences that I learned a lot from in terms of how I approach making things and how I approach getting my message across, that have been very kind of eye-opening and helpful. And I feel like I've grown a lot in the past year, which is a good feeling. But also, it's still never great going into something feeling uneasy about it. Like feeling like I just released a video yesterday, and I was feeling super uneasy about like, am I reading too much into this? Am I not giving this the right amount of attention and care that is required? And I mean, those thoughts will happen when you try new things, and I think those thoughts are good, but they they're still kind of, they can be stressful, So
Was that
so yeah.
because I watched one of your videos last night actually, while I was eating dinner. Was that I don't know if it was the one that released last night. Was that like the street interview one?
Yeah, street
Yeah,
interviews.
yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Actually, that was so it's interesting that you have taken the approach of wanting to appeal to the most number of people possible and funnel people to other folks. I have a similar goal, but with very different like strategies. Like my appeal, who I'm trying to appeal to, is like the people that are interested in like the long form, like Sam Harris, Joe Rogan type shit, and put some people in front of those people that are like you, or like, maybe like an actual like radical, like various nodes into this network that, where Joe Rogan would have like a fascist like Douglas Murray on, I'll have, somebody who's like an actual like activist on, or something like that, or like a John the Duncan who will talk about communism till the cows come home. Right. So
John the Duncan is the Douglas Murray of the left. Everybody write it in the comment, or in the comment section. Thanks, John.
yeah, yeah,
Shout
no,
out to
that's
neoliberalism.
um oh god, I hope that doesn't take off, but if it does, like we'll have to own it. um
Yeah.
but yeah, I like that, and also you should be aware that that is effective for you, because that was the thing that my friend specifically mentioned. He's literally a marketing dude. Like he does like corporate marketing, and he was like, I like this guy because he's very funny and he's appealing to a broad audience, and he seems like he has a broad appeal. And he was like, this guy's probably going to blow up because of that. And like more, what he said to me essentially amounted to like, all of you fucking lefties should try to be more like Noah Samsen.
It's very flattering, but
Yeah.
also I feel bad because every lefty I know is way smarter than me. So we got to synthesize that somehow. I should just start like a YouTube consulting firm that is free, because
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Not
that's very
Evil
cool.
Incorporated.
Right.
So so you've really like blown up over like the past year or so. Let me ask you this, because this is something that I think a lot of people who are out there in like the left tube creation space, and people who are maybe looking into getting into this. And if you don't want to talk about this, we can cut this out. But because I understand sometimes people want to play these things close to the vest. What is it actually like in terms of like growing as a YouTuber, in terms of like reach and like financial like stability? Like, how does that process work for somebody who's actually doing the thing?
Yeah. I think like up until probably 6 months ago, I was still um not iffy, but not just still feeling the sort of same stressors that I've always felt about money. Like I always felt like, okay, once I get this channel off the ground, or if that happens, all I want to be able to do is pay rent
Hmm.
and pay for groceries and maybe save up a little to travel and stuff like that. And then in the last 6 months, after growing, once you start getting more like ad revenue, and then once you start doing sponsorships are like the sort of consistent income where you regardless of how a video performs, if it gets demonetized, you are guaranteed to basically be able to pay for um rent and then some. And like sponsorships are I mean, in my from my perspective, because I've never been someone who's made a lot of money, like lucrative and consistent. Yeah, so at a certain point when you start making enough to be sustainable, then it shifts from like, how can I, like, I feel a definite draw to like, okay, I've signed a contract to do like this many sponsorships in the next 3 months, so I have to like put out videos. And in some ways I really don't like that, because it
Hmm.
feels like I am tethered to a contractual obligation to create, and it feels like that beautiful artistic, like, what is it, who's the guy that locked himself in the basement and discovered math, like that shit, like it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not as cool, because my version of that is just locking myself in my room for 6 months and then making a shitty video that gets a thought, like just something that's like, not, I'm not actually working. And
Right.
so there's a synthesis there of like, I know ultimately just putting things out is, and just flexing the creative muscle and just going through the process of start to finish making a project is what is most important. And if the like contractual obligation to get something done can help me through that in a way that I've never had, like in a way that, when you're starting out, like I remember at the start of like, when I said, okay, I'm going to go hard, try this thing, I was like, I'll try to do a video a week. And even if like, even if I'm like hitting that goal, there's nothing there telling me that I really have to, because like I was, working, I was doing freelance editing and things. And so it is a weird synthesis of like financial incentive to like save up money, save up, like have money that I can invest and use for like my family and everything like that, as well as um the creative capitalism killer, creativity killing machine that like is just like, put this out even if you don't love it. And again, I feel like I'm in a good place right now where when I go into things, I don't ever like release things before I want to, because of deadlines. Like, the brands and stuff are usually pretty flexible. But oh, I remember what I was going to say. Okay. um with regards to like rates and things like that, with sponsors and stuff, I've seen more and more people start talking about it, like among left creators, about like how much they're making from this company, and like
Mhm.
discussing like salary, basically, like you would like you would ideally do at a job, so that we make sure nobody's getting fucked over. um
Yeah.
that is one thing that is just wild, the way that agencies and brands will take advantage of new creators, even if they're like blowing up and doing really good numbers. I had a lot of deals that I signed where, based on the number I was getting, I should have been paid 5 times more than what I was. But because I didn't
Oh
know, and
shit.
because I didn't have management, I just like signed on, was like, I mean, this is good money. Like, this is better than I'll make from ad revenue. This is awesome. I'll do this. But then, I mean, I recently got management. I got approached by a management company from Canada, and then after they told me like basically what I should have been asking for, I talked around with other people, and that's when I discovered like, oh, like there's like way better money, way more consistent money, and these people are like literally fucking you over, because when you sign a deal, if you go through an agency where it's like a third party saying, hey, this brand wants to work with you, we're facilitating the deal. If you agree to terms that are lower than what you should have been paid, they make more money off of that. Like
Mm.
they pick up the
Okay.
slack on that, as opposed to if you have an actual manager, they'll take a cut of what the deal is, but then that means they're incentivized to negotiate as high as they can, not accept deals that are below a certain amount. And I don't know, like I remember I was talking with Sam from We're in Hell about
Mhm.
like if there's some possibility of a way to make like some spreadsheet where we track all of what people are being paid and by which companies and how, like what's their view goal, view count thing, because there's a lot of metrics that are involved in the sense that like the same company isn't going to pay two people the same if one has 10,000 subscribers and one has 500,000. There's just like there's
Yeah.
mandatory view goals and metrics that you go by, but generally speaking, people aren't making as much as they should be. They're making a lot, but like especially for people starting out, I think like that's a super important thing. Is like if anyone's listening that's a creator or wanting to become a creator, like it's super helpful to talk to people that have been through that, to make sure you're not getting screwed over, because it's really a real thing. But tangent, sorry, but
No,
yeah.
no, that's very good information, and I think a lot of people would be appreciative to have it. Like I didn't even so you just said like 5 things that I was completely unaware of. So the first thing that jumped out to me was that when you sign on with an ad or with an agency, you're actually signing on for like multiple distributions. It's not like a one-off thing. So like you have an obligation to I have to do X number of videos and Y number of times to fulfill that contract. Is that how it normally works?
It can. So like recently I've been doing more multi-video deals, but to start out, usually they'll do like a trial, or like they'll just do like, hey, we want to sponsor this video, and you just do one video. You specify a month. Usually people, they run campaigns at like, just like you have to upload you'll send you a contract. You have to upload within this date range. And then usually, I mean, I haven't experienced anything where they're like, if you miss this deadline, you're not getting paid and you still have to upload the video. Like, but usually it's just like, we'll adjust, like you can upload this a few days after or whatever, not a big deal. But I've been doing multi video deals recently, and it's like 3 months, like February, March, April, a video for this company in each. And those are also still flexible. So like if I miss the April video, you push it back and then you do another video for the following month and stuff. But yeah, I think as you, if the videos you do perform well, then they will want to like work with you again. And if you keep a good relationship with the people that are like managing these things, then it's helpful just to keep consistent sponsors and have someone there. Like the way it works with me and my management is I'm like, okay, like right now I have a bunch of things signed, but if I have a video idea, if I know like, okay, this is going to be big video, then I reach out to them. I say like, who can we get on this? And then they facilitate something, like they'll reach out to people, and it does help to have people around you like that. But yeah, generally it's like either single video or multiple videos, depending on like where you're at with the sponsors, basically.
And then with so you were when you were kind of like I guess getting scammed basically. Well, we'll just that might not be the most that might be reductive, but
Yeah,
I'll
it
just use that
sounds
word.
that works. Yeah.
So did those companies approach you directly and like just offer you a certain amount, or were you? Because I've like I'm not a very big channel, right? Like I'm like the tiny potatoes next to the small potatoes, but I've still had like I've gotten emails from like what are clearly very predatory people that I just kind of ignore. But is that how it works, or do you like how to like what should any small creators who are watching this know to avoid? Like, what are the red flags for you're about to get fucked that you
I
encountered?
Yeah, I think mainly, like it's not necessarily that someone asking like what your rate would be is you being about to get fucked, but like if you aren't privy to what you should be making based on how many views you're getting and things like that, it's possible, if not likely, that you will be fucked. If they immediately say, yeah, that sounds good, let's move forward, then like usually there's some negotiating that should be involved. So like
Mm,
if you throw out a number and they're immediately like, perfect, sign this and let's go, then that means you should have. I mean, not always, but generally that means like you want to be like towing a line of like of what you're worth. And it doesn't always necessitate being fucked over. And I understand why agencies are incentivized to not tell you, because it's not like it's their job. It's still fucked, of course, but like, yeah, just starting at a place where I guess they're like ready to move forward without kind of bartering a little bit. There should be some kind of bartering process. But like if you're asking for, $50,000, like if there's a certain limit where
Yeah.
things are unreasonable, and so it just helps to talk to other creators. Like I can't stress that enough. Just talk to people that, even if they're bigger channels or people that you might not know personally or anything like that, reach out. People are generally helpful.
Hmm.
I've talked to a few smaller creators, like when they've asked me, like, "Hey, I'm getting an offer from this company. Like, what did you do? What did you say?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like when I got that offer, I was at this. This is how I would approach it. Like, I would definitely try to like always whatever you were gonna ask for, ask for more than you feel like you're worth, even like just to play on the side, because it's not like if you ask for like." A little over a line of what they would be willing to pay, they just like ghost you. That's not how it works. They obviously reached out to you for a reason. They want to like sponsor on your channel.
Yeah.
So it's know your
Yeah.
worth, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe I think like having some sort of like centralized information for people would be, like, I mean, like we're you know I think I would be in favor of like as much collectivized action on behalf of YouTube creators as possible. But that's just because I'm a filthy commie. But so okay, that's I think that's really like helpful for a lot of people. Do you so monetization with YouTube and like particularly TikTok too, I think is it fuel the way that it's monetized fuels a lot of the already existing toxic shit to be even more toxic. Like you have to like like is that something that you've noticed, or like and maybe now we can get into like the area of expertise where you survey various shitty people. Like have you noticed a connection there, or do you feel like there is,
So in terms of TikTok monetization versus YouTube, or like,
or just like
um,
the monetization practices of these level of either fueling increasing levels of like toxicity amongst like the manosphere and like those kinds of people.
yeah, I can't necessarily speak to TikTok, but like a lot of there's a huge ecosystem of, I think a lot of, well, here, let me step back. Like, there's always different ecosystems of content where people are super incentivized to drama farm, and
Hmm.
like make beefs or make call out videos
Hmm.
that are very clearly either designed to be inflammatory or designed to spark a little kayfabe, like back and forth. And
Hmm.
that was something I didn't like fully understand until I like got involved with it, in
Yeah,
like earlier this
and
year,
that
content
is not
creator beef.
exclusive to the manosphere by any means.
Oh,
Yeah,
not at all. Yeah,
yeah,
but I think like the Manosphere has like kayfabe things going on between different Manosphere creators. Like they'll, so the more extreme, like Fresh and Fit will make a clip saying women should all be, sent to what do say something crazy, and then
yeah,
Manosphere people will check them not in a good way, but in a way that's like, let's start a beef with Fresh and Fit so we can get our views up. And in some sense, that's just how the creator economy works. You're incentivized to like direct beefs if you come out on top or whatever. Like perception is everything on the internet. If you show yourself to be the more entertaining or funny or better person or like smarter or whatever, people's perception of you, if that's their first impression of you, will be favorable. They'll probably follow you. They'll probably like your stuff. And so, in a weird way, I understand it, but also in the same way, like having gone through it, I will never like entertain that style of like content.
yeah,
And I think like a criticism I get a lot is that I do call out videos, and I would say like it's a different thing where you're like surveying specific elements of someone's content to like critique it or just to make something entertaining, like, oh, look, this weird shit that's going on the internet, without like necessarily, going after their name and their fan base to try to like capitalize on it. I think there's a difference. I still I continually have that thought and that reservation of like, oh, how am I any better than the Manosphere if all I'm doing is pointing out the Manosphere being weirdo guys when they're all just pointing out how women are weirdos? Like, how is that any different? But the way I like conceptualize it is that, these are media ecosystems that are designed to
Mhm.
like portray a certain like aspect of humanity and shape your perceptions of like a gender of people. And whereas if you're going after specific media figures that are doing shit that like I find harmful, I think there's definitely a difference. But I am constantly trying to check myself. Like, am I playing into this internet kayfabe shit because I know it'll do well? Like, I mean, the video I released yesterday, I like showed portions of this creator who's like blowing up a lot, but he's like saying all this wild shit. And I think he knows he's saying wild shit and he knows people are going to react to it. Usually he prefaces when he's about to start saying wild shit with, they're not going to like me, what I'm about to say here. I'm going to get canceled.
Mhm.
The feminists are going to be really mad at me. And so they know, a lot of times what they're doing. But I don't think that necessitates just never talking about it and never making something to make sense of it for the people that might not be privy to like seeing what's going on. I think it's like the platforming debate is like definitely an interesting one that I haven't like touched on in a while, but yeah, that's something. Super rambly answer, but
No, you're here to talk, man. So I actually that's an interesting like difference, right? And between commenting on versus engaging with and becoming a part of that back and forth, which is in effect the brand of that ecosystem. And th- that is tough, right? Like, and I think one of the reasons that I specifically, because I used to I think I have like five or six, maybe not that many, but like a lot of interviews that I've done with like other lefty YouTube creators have been, we have touched on and discussed like the like anti-debate bro, like that whole thing. And I kind of just lost interest in it because I realized that the people that were going to be invested in that type of content are going to be what they're not going to want to watch me or anybody else. Like that's their thing. And to at a certain extent you're kind of feeding into it, but it also bears being commented on. And I think the difference is, if there is a difference, I think the difference is, are you attempting to become a named character in this drama that you're describing? Or are you commenting on the structure itself? Like that to me seems to be like a key difference. Like when you did your series of videos, you were like the two that you did, you were very clearly commenting on the structure of that system, and you were not actively seeking to be a participant within it. And the brief brush that you had with, like, you very easily could have become a character in that drama and did not. Like you said what you had to say, and then you were like, okay, I'm done with this, and moved on. And I think that's kind of the difference to me is, are you actively seeking to be a participant, or are you talking about the system in which people are participating?
yeah. Yeah,
And it's a
that's
fine line.
for sure. It's a I like I have like definitely like a super ego streak where part of me is like I'm too funny and too sexy to have to rely on being a little fucking WWE guy in this bullshit. Like, I'm not going to social climb go on these streams and try and flex my intellectual. Like, I don't
Yeah,
have to do that. I'm better than that.
yeah,
So I like leaning into that ego a little bit, but also I recognize shit's hard out here, man. Like, growing
yeah,
as a creator, it's not easy. So I can't hate people wanting to do the kayfabe, but I understand. I've since recognized why it's just not for me. It's not. And
yeah.
like, some people enjoy it. Some people like being a part of it. I think the majority or a lot of people that like either watching it or consuming it or being a part of it, have a certain, like, there's a certain element of like, this is more important than it is, and this is more like, we take this too seriously and don't recognize, not saying everybody, but I think there's an element where like people will defend their creator to their dying breaths, and I mean that's that, like I think going through it and understanding what that means, it shows me that like, oh, that's like, it's weirdo shit. Like I get it. You make more money from donations and things when you have like a good relationship. I'm not saying people go out and intentionally do this, but I just think, yeah, I feel lucky to not have to resort to that thing. I get why people do it, but I still think it's not like, especially if we're talking about for the left, like whatever that means. I think like it's good to have community. It's good to have people that are like, in conversation with one another. I think video essays are their own version of conversation, obviously, but yeah, that shit. That I was done with that really quick. It took me a while to like really like for 2 or 3 months straight. I was like, yo, this shit. I don't even know what to make of how like draining this is. Just
like
being
it gets in your fucking head.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, yeah. God. Like I mean, I caught it and I didn't even like really touch on it. Like I was just watching and I was like, this is just like the amount of like visceral, like I need to like engage. And that's what, the goal is they want you to feel that so that you do engage and then perpetuate it. And it's, yeah, it gets in your head and, you hear that fucking WWE fight intro music and you're like, okay, let's, I hit the mic.
Yeah, no, that like when I like went on to talk with Vosh on his stream, I was walking in there like I didn't even hear the music and see the lights. I was just like, okay, I'm here to like maybe I got some stuff wrong. Let's do this thing. And I got fucking just literally choke slammed. And again, like that's what happens when you enter the domain. You just that's like the way it works. And like
Yeah.
it's on me for entering it and not having that in mind. But again, I was like new to it. Like I watched the stuff, but I didn't really know how it happens from the inside until it happens. And it's like, whoa, I'm good, man. I'm good on this. Like I keep doing what y'all are doing, but I'm gonna peace out. And
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's the
Do you have any like from your brief stint as a WWE internet warrior, do you have any like any insights that you might want to share with the class on that, or are you just like totally done with it?
I think, yeah, the way I like think about it now when I look back on it is people develop perceptions about what they watch and who they watch online, and based on how these perceptions develop, based on what they're consuming and like how much of it they're consuming, they will have an opinion and a feeling about whoever. And if there's basically like, you can fight it and you can try to make your case as to why people should like you, but at a certain point, once you're involved in this and once you go through the back and forths, people are just going to feel how they feel, no matter how, like, no matter how you try to explain it, no matter how to try to defend yourself, they're going to feel how they feel. And like, especially when it comes to like logic lords, they're good at arguing. They're like, they know how to set up arguments and rhetoric in a way that, like, I'm not saying even set up, I mean, just like they know how to argue. And so like it creates this thing where like, unless you are, well versed in that, it's just a losing battle every time. So if I guess the moral of the story for me is like, don't take yourself too seriously. And if you're a part of one of those beefs, like, do what you can to step back and step out of it, to look at it from the bigger picture. Cause again, we're entertainers, we're media people. This is not some, it's not like the evening of the revolution and we got to make sure we appoint the correct, YouTuber to be the one carrying the fucking flag. Like, it's just we're just chilling. We're just making silly stuff. It's a fun time. So don't take yourself too seriously is my advice. But yeah, it's a good question.
That is good advice. So the don't take yourself too seriously and like this we're entertainers is, I genuinely believe that, but I also believe, and I think you do as well, that the things that we do in terms of our output have cultural impact, which is why you probably spend so much time on this manosphere shit and trying to like, you know, get people away from it to the extent that you do. Um, and I think we've mentioned the manosphere a few times here. Do you have like an elevator pitch for somebody who's never heard of this before? Because you and I both understand it and know what it is, and I think a lot of people do. But like, there are people watching this who have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. Like, if you had to introduce somebody to this and you didn't like them, and that's why you're doing it, because there's no other reason to introduce somebody to the manosphere. How would you
ruin
what
their
would you
life?
tell them? Yeah.
Yeah. The manosphere. How do I conceptualize the manosphere? So I think the internet has always had enclaves and ecosystems of, you know, people defined by their ideas and stuff. So like if you're watching this, you might watch some left creators, people like media criticism people like prank YouTubers or whatever. There's different like genres. The manosphere is one that's like developed sort of through it's a little bubble of like the most charitable interpretation of it is a little bubble of like the reclamation of masculinity, or the reclamation of traditional masculine values, or traditional sort of like heteronormative like relationship advice, dating advice, and it's filtered through the lens of like an audience of young men that are, they got some shit going on in their lives, or they I don't want to generalize these audience, but it's like what draws them together is a sense of, depending on where you're at in the manosphere, because there's like red pill self-improvement people. So the red pill is, as it's defined by like this traditional thing, is like the Matrix, taking the red pill to wake up, to see the realities of modern dating and to see the realities of what women want in relationships. And again, it's a giant red flag, not just because of what that entails. It's like anything that is red pill is you waking up to the truth. And then you want to ask, well, what is the truth? Why are you using that moniker to like say what you're going to say? Obviously, we all are trying to profess some version of the truth and some version of what we believe to be correct and true. But specifically when it's branded under the red pill, we know there are elements of, misogyny and sexism that are inextricably linked to the elements of the manosphere that want to see men improve their lives, that see men, get in relationships. It's mostly not, I don't know what the breakdown is. I'm probably being way too charitable to it, but it's basically like guys want to, find success and get sex. And so they'll listen to people that will kind of tell them how to do that using little tricks and maneuvers that don't necessitate that the person on the other end of these maneuvers is a human. Like it's like algorithmically designed ways to get sex, to get laid, to get hook up, to get better chances of securing a high value woman, or have better success in the dating market, in the sexual marketplace. All these terms extremely just skin crawl worthy, but this is how they talk. And so, that is, there's probably more to touch on there. I think I'm the reason I'm being charitable is I always, like, recently I've gone through this thing where I've had a little crisis of like, okay, I can go, there's two kind of paths you can take when discussing the manosphere. You can take the one where you dunk on it, and that's fun. Like, I love doing that. I still do it. I will not stop doing it. And then you can take the one where you like approach, where you enter the conversation with clasp hands and say, "Hey, fellas, let's talk about, like, I get that you're hurting, but I'm here to like, let's have a conversation." So like I can traditionally conceptualize it as there's two ways. And so whenever I made a video where I was like just goofing on these weird guys, I always felt like you start to get comments like, "Hey man, if they don't know what they're doing wrong, what is the point of making fun of them? They're just they don't like get what's going on, and that's unfair. It's fucked up. You're making fun of guys who, like, you're making fun of incels, the most marginalized group ever. And so when you think about it like that, it's like I took it like a little bit like upon myself to feel bad that, like, am I approaching this the wrong way? But I had a conversation. I was on FD Signifier's stream the other day, and he said something that made me kind of rethink this notion of like the two ways you can approach this, which was that there are all sorts of content creators that make things for different, sections along this line of people's journeys and understanding, let's say, masculinity. And someone like FD, for example, will have a long form resource, a structured resource that's like super empathetic, super fair, super like well, just like valuable in terms of calling people into the fold that are falling privy to this ideology. And then there's people on the opposite end of the spectrum that like just like, I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess like I'm in a way further along the line towards making content for an audience of people that either already understands why a dude saying girls should not be able to allow men should be allowed to cheat, but women shouldn't. Like, that already know that that's fucking insane, and that already know like, oh, this is like hilarious. Let's just make fun of this. Like that, like people who have experienced relationships where the person on the other end of the relationship, the person that they are dealing with, is like one of these guys or adjacent to one of these guys. A form of catharsis, a form of like, this is like funny. Let's talk about this in a way that like points out why it's bad, but also just kind of celebrates the absurdity of it. And then there's also in between points, and that's what I've been trying to do more is more speak to like be upfront and say like, I know like this might not feel like I'm being like fair to you guys, but just stick with me because like I'm a guy. I want guys to be better. I know like I might not come with the best advice about how to like get 100 Tinder matches tomorrow, but I'll tell you what definitely you shouldn't be doing. And if we can start with that, then you can eventually make your way to somebody like an FD, where you'll really sort of take a different path than what you were on. And I think that's important, is conceptualizing it as different nodes in an ecosystem of ideas that will eventually bring you to a place of being a better person, being a better man, whatever. So
yeah, when I think about like ecosystems like that, be it like the debate sphere or like the manosphere or these large communities that have various different overlapping sub communities of people, there are two ways in my head that I can conceptualize it. One is sort of like a nebula with like various different little nodes and points in it. Did you ever read the paper by Becca Liu, I think is her name, the researcher who did like the right wing
alternative influence.
the alternative influence network. I think of
All
it
the right
like that,
pipeline.
like it's this nodal network, but you can also think of it as a sales funnel, right? Like there are people at the
Oh yeah.
big wide mouth end who are just throwing bits and pieces out, like the dude that you did the video on um, last night that you released, like who's just doing street interviews. That's somebody at the top of that like funnel who's just like, somebody might watch that and think, oh, this is funny. And then like you fall a little further down, and then somebody like fresh and fit catches you. And then you fall a little further down, and then, it's a series of like red pills all the way down to hell. Um, and I think that it is important to have, if we are interested in having a concerted movement to oppose this thing, which I think it's a good thing to oppose, we also need similar structures that function in a countervailing way to those things. So, yeah, I think exactly what you just said, like that there is value at being at various points all along that network and in that funnel to push people in the other direction. And it is also equally important, I think, to inform the normies. uh, like, there are people who have no idea what the fuck we're talking about, and they might watch a Noah Samsen video and go, "Oh, that's what that dude was on about, right? Like, that's what that weird guy on Tinder was all about. Like, I didn't know what that was, and now you know, and now you know what to avoid." So I think there's value at all points along that, but where do you, like, when you get pushback from like dudes in this like manosphere, is what would you say like the most pushback from people that actually respond to you are? Like, how do they interact with you? Because I'm sure you get some wild shit in your comment section. Like, what's the thing that what feedback do you get from the people that you're trying to like push people away from, I guess?
Yeah. There's always the soy boy cuck white knight, you're doing this to get pussy guys. That's
Yeah.
like every time. And
Yeah.
I obviously, like, initially starting to get those, it makes you reflect, like, not am I doing this to get pussy, but like, what motivations could I be having to, I mean, it's weird because, like, when you're taking in criticism, you just think, you read everything and you think, is this valid? But then eventually you realize, oh, like, people are insane on the internet. This is ridiculous. But like, that specific critique is like indicative, I think, of a very, I'm starting to outline a video about that specific idea, the idea of like being a male feminist is inherently ulterior motives, right? Because what it reflects is that you think the only reason a guy would want to like talk about harmful men's behavior is because he wants to have sex with women, and that's like a huge part of the problem, that you view interactions and relationships with women as being like this like sexual exchange and exchange of power. And so that's one thing I get a lot. I think like the one that I've been taking to heart more is the idea of like, if you're not like are you doing this to denigrate men, to make fun of men that don't understand what's going on? And I mean, that again, for I can understand why people who like actually don't know what's going on are would feel that way, but the media figures we're talking about here, they know they know what they're doing, and they know absolutely that they're cultivating an audience. You can read through their comments, you can see the attitudes that are being cultivated.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's like, yeah, thinking about it that way. There was one other thing about like feedback from the manosphere that like, yeah, like most of it, I really don't know what to make of it, because like I operate in a space that's pretty primarily left. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I don't know how to explain. Well, this is what I'm excited to start to do as like these conversations start up and more happening, is like, I um I understand that, like, let's say a black pill creator is going to think that I don't treat the realities of dating in a manner as serious as they need to be treated, like the fact that whatever statistic they bring up about Tinder matches, like 80% of the guys get 20% of whatever. Like, I understand why people would want me to take that stuff more seriously, because in some sense, like, that's what congregates these guys, is like the feeling of alienation, loneliness, feeling like the world is against them, yada yada yada. I obviously, because I operate in a primary left space, I can't like. There's only so far along the line you can go into empathizing with your situation before you're like running cover for, before you're being an apologist for the
Mm-hmm.
type of attitudes. Like, you have to maintain a firm stance of like I know there are people that are watching this that are going to just like be just disgusted by what these people are saying to the point where they can't watch. And that's okay. I try to like give trigger warnings and let people know if I'm going to be diving into stuff that's harmful. But yeah, I think ultimately, like, I think that's probably the best critique that could be made of like of my space, is that it's not treating the severity of like men's issues with that is required. And I'm okay with that critique because I know there are other places along the line that
Mhm.
are really being that, but I know I don't have to be that for that group of people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that so this is something that a lot of I am very happy to see this happening. Is that a lot of people who are critiquing this manosphere, red pill, like even people so far as like the black have taken the black pill, which uh, maybe we should explain our terms in a second because they're probably if you don't know what those terms mean, then good for you. You're probably a
Happy
better
for
person
you.
for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy for your mental health.
But I think that there is this, and it is a fair criticism that is leveled at the left very broadly. Is we have spent so much of our time, in my view, correctly, tearing down patriarchy and like trad masculinity and like all this really toxic bullshit, and we have not done anything to give young men anything else to like there's no scaffolding for these people. And I think that we're now seeing interest in pursuing like what a healthy version of masculinity would be. And I'm really excited to see that. Like I know like FD and Foreign and like you're out there doing this, and there's a bunch of other people like Chill Goblin released a stuff. Like I'm working on a side project with Bellamy and Finn that may have dropped by the time this video comes out. But like, what do you like now that we're kind of in my view, we're like kind of in this like post critique era of like the red pill shit. It's not that we're not still criticizing it. We absolutely should be because it's still very prevalent. But we're in this mode now where there's enough people who are trying to build something to replace it. And like what do you see as that? Like what's your view of like a healthy alternative for young men out there?
Yeah. First of all, I really like the way you described it as being post critique because that's like it's valuable to think about it in that way because it can reframe your approach. I mean, any creator's approach on building the scaffolding, right? Building an alternate path that's not just like we know it's bad, but what's good? What should we strive to do? And this is something I am trying to learn about because masculinity is something that I haven't. I mean, I grew up with like my dad was what I would consider a very like an upstanding man, a good man, someone who was a responsible, loving father that was there. That I was super lucky to have that in my life, and I he had like whenever like I would like he would like suggest to me resources like growing up because he's like was somewhat religious. There was a time in his life where like Christianity, the values of Christianity of what it means to be a good man were very like helpful in structuring the way his life went and the way he could be an upstanding father. And so, but beyond that, like since those times, I haven't spent a lot of time like reflecting on what it means to be a good man and how to give that resource to other people. And so I'm excited to learn about it. I think The Will to Change by Bell Hooks is something that every man should be read, and I've like talked about it in a few of my videos. But um, ultimately, the way I see it being most helpful online is like molding the healthier ideas of masculinity into spaces about that will reflect off of one another. So like molding healthy masculinity into dating advice or advice on Tinder or whatever resource that guys are going to right now that has harmful elements in it, mirroring that with like the angel on the shoulder as opposed to the devil. The angel that says like sex is great. You should want to have healthy sexual relationship with the people. But if you're doing the things that are prescribed by the manosphere to get sex, then this is your remember women are human. So we gotta not do that. So like I think specifically dating advice stuff, I think specifically um just like pointing out where content is leading people down the wrong ways, and then and then saying, I mean, that's something that I'm not like fully confident in like outlining a full masculine strip because I'm still learning about it. And it is like cause for like conflict in some sense because I've been in such a left space that like just doesn't really talk about masculinity, and it's not like I'm like complaining because again I've focused on my stuff, but there's a need for it. There's
Mhm.
super need for it, and um I'm excited to learn more about it so I can talk about it with people. I think like also just having experiences in the real world that you can like relay to people about like, okay, so there's a time in my life where I operated in a manner that I would call, super like harmful and toxic in terms of like dating and relationships. And then at a certain point you like learn stuff about how people work and you experience things that change your perception, and then you can approach things from a way where you are being like an upstanding man. You're being true to your word. Um you're you're being someone that wants to, if like providing, like that's one of the things they talk about is a traditional man is wants to provide for his like wife or his girlfriend or whatever. And I think you can look at providing as a thing that men should want to do, while also understanding that women can want to do that as well. There can be a household of people working where like the more regressive elements of the manosphere will be like women shouldn't work or whatever insane shit. And it's like, yeah, that's like, now that we can establish that that's like insane, we can talk about how it's not demasculating to take care of the kids at home or whatever. It's not
Mhm.
demasculating to say, I don't feel like uh I don't feel like having to do this role that is assigned by society. And instead of celebrating the traditional like embrace of these roles, we can understand why those roles are there, but also understand that you don't have to adhere to them, and that we can, if we're in conversation with the women in our lives, we can build a different path that's better, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of like in a similar space. Like I grew up with a dad who was like weirdly an equal mix of like very toxic but also very positive masculine stuff. Like he's a very traditional like trad mask dude, but he also is like, you know, the kind of guy who like is absolutely not afraid to like cry in public and like, be like actually feel his feelings and like talk about them and be sincere. So I think that we're in this process of like it's like building a plane mid-flight, right? Like we're tearing down all of these like really toxic like gender identities that have existed heretofore, and we're trying to build something that really is we don't have a blueprint for it. We're like out here trying to make it like work in real time. And I think the thing that I would say to most young men out there is like that's okay to not it's scary to not have a scaffolding, but like how can I phrase this in a way that's quippy? Um, so we don't have a scaffolding, and right now the most manly thing you can do is pick up a hammer and help us all build one, right? Like
Mm.
there is this whole structure of positivity that we can all build together, and you can help us, but you're never going to do that if you're stuck in this like deeply regressive, toxic environment that has seeped in. And, I do think without like getting into apologetics, like you said, but I do think that we have to acknowledge that shit sucks for a lot of dudes. And like, I think that there are legitimate grievances that young men have about the world that are not actually dealt. Like, what do you say to somebody who is like truly like black pilled, and is so for legitimate reasons in some cases. Like that's a person that we have to try to reach, and like I don't know what to do about. Like, do you have any like thoughts on that? Or
Reaching the black pilled folks, yeah.
well, let's you might be better at this than I am, but like what is, let's talk about the black pill and like what
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is before we, yeah, so like how would
sure.
you describe that?
The black pill is essentially the school of thought that for dating and relationships for men, um, women in society are like the number one feature or thing that they value in terms of finding a partner is their looks, is a man's looks, and that can go anywhere from like conceptualizing the virgin to the Chad. You know, like a Chad can walk in a room and girls will like him and think he's funny and laugh at his jokes, even if he's not funny, because he is a 10. And basically saying that women don't like understand humor and women don't understand like how to like what relationships are beyond what a guy looks like. And but basically that, you know, when you're on Tinder, if you get your body fat percentage down 5%, it's going to raise your likelihood of getting a match in your photos if it looks like you have a jawline as opposed to looking like you have a round face, because the initial reaction of someone swiping on a dating app is to swipe, you know, right on someone that looks more traditionally, conventionally attractive. And that obviously has a lot of harmful elements because when like black pill creators that I've covered have like said, you know, for some people there's just no hope, and you should just focus on yourself and renounce all attempts at relationships because you will never find love, you will never find a match. ContraPoints has a great video on incels, basically, and I think like black pill ideology is kind of the foundation. I think there like a lot of people say like the black pill is truth. Okay, I've been watching this shit too much. Like they say it
Oh God,
as
we
a
got to do
way.
an intervention for Noah.
A lot of people say that it's truth. I think they're somewhat right. No, no, no. Like they say that as even if they're not ascribing to like being a full incel, they say it as saying like, yeah, like dating apps, if you are, you know, a 10 versus like a 5, you're going to get more matches. Obviously that's true. People are like on a general spectrum, people are more attractive to more conventionally attractive people. But that what this doesn't take into account is the millions of outliers to these cases. I mean, how many people do you know that's like a guy that's like he looks like whatever, but he's dating a really like attractive woman for whatever reason? That exists. That's very much a thing. I mean, like in my personal experiences, I've met people that are that way. I've experienced people like I've always had a thing where like I feel like if you're a funny person, you can attain relationships. And even thinking about it in this way is kind of regressive because it's like, what is obtaining a valuable relationship? Like, oh, I have a hot girlfriend. This is an achievement. That's like a problematic notion. But generally, like, speaking to this audience of people, like it's just like it's objectively wrong to say that this is the only thing that people value. But yeah, so that's what the black pill is basically. I mean, that if you had
Yeah.
anything to add on to that, but yeah.
No, I think that's that's a pretty good encapsulation. The other thing that I have encountered is just like the abject nihilism of it is very pervasive, and yeah, it's just, it's not, and maybe you would agree or disagree with that, but like people who tend to like self-profess as having taken the black pill, in my view or in my experience, they're not just making a truth claim about that, they're despairing openly about that truth claim, and have like they absolutely have like no, they've resigned themselves to a hopeless existence and foregrounded that hopelessness as a key part of their personality.
Right, and the confirmation bias that creates, which is,
Yeah.
oh, another Chad swooped in. Oh, a woman cheated on her husband with a guy who is hotter than a husband. That's just that. There it is, right? Like the
Yeah.
constant confirmation bias of what the Manosphere provides, also, which is stories upon stories upon stories of like women doing shit that's bad that men do too. But you know, this channel uploads 1,000 stories of the women doing it, so it's like a little bit of a jaded perspective on the world. Yeah, it's definitely that. I think like for the most part, if you look into the comment section of a black pill YouTuber's video, it's not people saying like, I mean, there are some people saying like, guys, it's it's tough out here, but we could just focus on ourselves and improve, and maybe something will happen. It's never maybe something will happen. It's always this is it. Go your own way. Start a small business, make some money, and then live life on your own because these bitches are crazy. Like it's like there's
Yeah.
no there. The general consensus is like very harmful, and so I forget what we were talking about leading into this before we wanted to
Yeah.
describe it, but
Well, and that actually um that I think is an important distinction between like the red pill. Like I think there's a clear bifurcation between these two groups, and what to me separates them is um the self-improvement and self-help marketplace is very much run on the red pill, and the black pill area doesn't really like, people are not doing like how to become a giga chad YouTube video channels for people that are black pilled. Like those are all for people that are like
they make them. But it's like get surgery, get plastic
yeah,
surgery,
yeah.
and yeah,
Whereas like red pill is all like, here's how to, get like, whatever fucking muscle group they want you to get now, and like all the supplements and shit. Like it runs on an economy of tricking people into like doing stuff that they don't necessarily need to do, beyond just basic fitness. But
right.
when I think about like the black pill folks, I worry about them in particular because like that is kind of what's at the bottom of this funnel, right? Like if you do the red pill pipeline long enough and it doesn't work for you because all that shit's nonsense, um, right? Most of it, like there are going to be some dudes that have success because they're just naturally like monsters and are good at doing that kind of thing. But for most people, that's just, they're going to ping pong around that funnel until they eventually, either find themselves in a relationship that they can sustain, or they wind up at like this abyss of just there's nothing left. And that to me is like the most dangerous thing. And I wonder, how do we reach those people? Can those people be reached? Or is it better to just try to prevent people from hitting that point? Like I'm not sure where I land on that.
Yeah, I mean, it is the scariest point because like incel spree shooters have
Yeah.
all their manifestos have black pill shit in them. It's all this is the way things are. This is immutable. My inability to procreate is genetic, which is very funny if you think about the implications of that. But like
Yeah.
the yeah, it's scary, but I don't know. I don't know what the best way to go about it is. I think, like you said, building the scaffolding up, making it so that there's resources along the way to hopefully grab them out of it. Um, I I'm interested in revisiting the black pill. I have a couple like script, just early scripts about revisiting it because maybe what's needed is someone to like just reach all the way down and make like a comprehensive like fail safe resource for literally to like potentially prevent mass shootings, to say like, all right, black pillars, this is a video dedicated for you and only you, and I want you to stick around with me because I'm going to try and be respectful. I know things are shitty, but maybe we can make it out of here, and maybe we can like, I mean there's already content out there like that, like not specifically that, but I mean, I'm interested in doing that because it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, if some wild shit's gonna go down, it's gonna be from that space of people that like feel like this, their backs are like fully against the wall, like there's no hope. Because when you have no hope, what's the point of living? What's the point of, especially when you're in an area that's fostering like horribly negative attitudes towards women, like the violence is just around the corner. That's like just the equation, you know, no hope for you for procreating plus it's women's fault equals violence against women. That's just
Yeah.
how, that's just what is inevitable, and it's just a matter of how many people are feeling that way and how many are, willing to take it violent. And so yeah, it's a really good question to think about, like what we should focus our resources on. But I think people doing what they do and doing what they do best is going to, and like
Mm.
being in conversation with other people about like masculinity and how we can approach this, like things like this, like just now talking about it and helping kind of map out where we need people doing what they do best. Like, I think that's really good. And so, yeah, there's no one easy answer, but I think that's a part of the fun of the challenge. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. So one of the it almost, well, it's not almost, it literally is just like conspiracism, right? Like this whole the red pill, right? Like waking up to see the truth that, you can, that there is this like sexual hierarchy and you can break people down by numbers and all of that. Um, and I wonder, it's just, it can't be an accident that it maps so neatly onto this disaffected, like right wing chud sphere too, right? Like if you meet somebody who's red pilled, they're almost certainly also like very like conservative or traditionally conservative. Like you don't meet very many people who are like lefties in that space. There are those people, they exist. The caricature of the male feminist who's doing it to get laid, like that guy is real. Like I think we've all probably met a dude like that, but they're, in my experience, they're not as prolific as this other type of dude. And I don't know, like have you noticed a specific connection between like chuddy dudes in the manosphere, or like do you find them to be apolitical? Like what's the political vibe like in that environment?
I think a lot of that, where that conservatism comes from, where that traditionalism comes from, is the quote unquote embrace of traditional masculinity, is the embrace of being a man, being what a woman wants. And a woman wants a man who's going to pay the bills and not let her outside or whatever, like whatever weird kind of regressive ideal. I think it mostly comes from that. It comes from like the biological essentialism. So like definitely transphobia is a huge, like
Mm.
biological essentialism is a huge element of transphobia, and biological essentialism is what these dudes are citing when they say women want, a man that's like a women are like more sexually attracted by percentage to a man that's like got a testosterone level that's like makes him like a violent brute or whatever. So like you got to be like, a lot of the conceptions of why you should get fit is because you can appeal to the cavewoman sensibilities of what, like all this weird shit. But I think a lot of that filters through the traditional conception of a relationship. And um, I guess I'm trying to think of what else specifically. Like there's a lot of racism going on in the black pill stuff, which is, saying that like, I mean, in a way, it's an acknowledgement of like the fact that if you're black or if you're Hispanic, you're going to get less matches on a dating app than if you're white. That's true. Like that's like an element of racism that's real. But they, when they start talking about like the different type of set, like incels for different races, and talking about how, you know I mean, there's a huge subgroup of the black pill types that like are also the like racist black pill types that are like, the reason I as a white dude can't get a girl is because all the handsome black dudes are taking women from me. FD just had a insane
Yeah,
comment thread on his shit
yeah,
about that. Like it's weirdly interlinked, and I don't know. That's a really good question, because I wonder like how, if it would be helpful to just like map out all the connecting points between red pill and conservatism, because it's totally there. And I
yeah,
think, like you said, I like the idea of like the virtue signal male feminist. I think what there's a really good essay on this, the like the soy boy fuck boy or something it's called, where it's like the guy who it portrays leftist but is still doing fuckboy shit. Like there that's like totally a thing. It's like a very good like sort of counter argument to acknowledge when it comes to like being a feminist, is like understanding that dudes are out there doing weirdo shit no matter what political bent they are. But the reason that's not self-sustaining is that in like a leftist space, that shit, like people figure it out pretty quickly. Like
yeah,
if it's if it's a place that is really attempting to break down barriers and understand like what's going on
yeah. That
with,
that whisper network turns into a shouting match very quickly. Like
right.
that doesn't stay quiet for long. Yeah,
It's not self-sustaining. The red pill, on the other hand, there's no women in that space. There's no
yeah,
women that are like yeah, I mean, there's a handful of women in the comments being like, yeah, I love this shit, but like, for the most part, it's not a part of the conversation. And so, um, I'm gonna fucking write that down because that is like an actually really good point about connecting the red pill to conservatism because it's
Yeah.
super
Well,
interlinked.
so the reason that it occurs to me is because like I've not spent a lot of time like investigating like the manosphere specifically, but I have spent a good amount of time investigating like the alt-right pipeline. And it's literally like that nebulous cloud of nodes and then the sales funnel. It's the same thing, and they use almost the same terminology. They also use the term red pill. Um, but like when they say the red pill, they're not talking about like women only go for chads, et cetera, et cetera. They're talking about, the globalists run things. And then like the next red pill is putting echoes around the word globalist. And then the next red pill is like, well, we actually mean the Jews. Like,
Right.
it's that funnel all the way down to essentially just being a Nazi from, base level conservatism. And you can almost one-to-one map the the process and the playing field onto one another, and there is a lot of overlap between these two online communities and the terminology and the 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 propaganda style. And it I don't know, I haven't like teased out like this interconnectedness. Like look at a guy like Jordan Peterson is sort of like my sort of in my head my go-to. Jordan Peterson is a central node in both of these networks, right? Pretty much every manosphere, like self-help dude, has read 12 rules, right? As has every proud boy.
That's a
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
That's a really yeah. Like the intersection. I think the embrace of traditional values, it is like, yeah, it's a reflection between those points, as in we want to embrace traditional values because this is how it's been. We go back to this, it's better for everybody, for women, for men, it's better. That's like the ideology. And also we don't want to gender Elliot Page correctly because
yeah,
that's also reflect like that step in humanity is a step towards degeneracy and a step away from the traditional values that are important. They totally go hand in hand. Jordan Peterson is like, yeah, he's a very interesting node. I'm curious to see how now that he's gone full Daily Wire, like
hmm,
how sustain. Because like honestly, the content I've seen, like the weird manifesto things, have been very much like, oh, he's going to lose. I mean, he's probably going to bring people, but he's also going to lose a lot of people, I think, because it's way more kind of direct mask off. It doesn't have the same zeal and appeal as like, when he's talking to a crowd. He's good at that. He's
yeah,
captivating in certain contexts, but like, yeah, like they are super interconnected. And I'm curious how it's going to play out over the next, because in a lot of ways the notion that red pill is waking up to a conservative worldview is just a rejection of like the capitalist structure of like capitalism co-opting identity politics and social justice movements. People cite Disney loves having, like, Disney's all about this woke crap, and it's silly and insane, but when Pride Month comes around and everyone changes their logos, that's just rainbow capitalism. Um, it makes sense why people would feel like, rejecting LGBTQ rights is some kind of red pill because it's what society doesn't want you to say now. It's not politically correct. SNL is talking about Trump is bad. They're all conspiring against you, but it's it's like as if any of that has any sort of material dictation on the real world and how the oppression still is just ongoing and will be ongoing and has always been ongoing. It's not waking up, it's just regressing.
yeah. I think a lot of it might have to do, at least the overlap, is that um, fascism in particular, but also as you like filter up into like just bog standard conservatism, has just vicious misogyny baked into it at like a very base level. Like that's just there. Like even before you get to like the racism, like just it is assumed that women are inferior. And that is like a very big animating factor in fascism. So that's probably why there's it's if I were a fascist, I would be recruiting actively from the manosphere because like you're already kind of there when you hate women that much. Like
Yeah.
and that's probably why the black pill folks are they tend to fall into that is because if you're already that much against women, like you hate women that much, or you've become so disenchanted with it, it's very easy to just pluck you up and go, hey, n- that's true. But also, what about this group of people? And then it's very easy to nudge you along.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't have
Have
anything
you
to add to that. That was good. Yeah.
like do you encounter like a lot of like racism or like specifically like not even just like fashy shit but like just generalized like racism in that community? Like is it something that you see a lot of or is it more like under the radar?
I mean, my comments generally don't contain it. I've seen it in like black creators' comments and stuff. I think like the most like yeah, since covering Manosphere and Red Pill, I haven't seen it that much, but I know I understand how it fits in, and I understand that like um yeah, I mean, I just think the by nature of like my identity, it's not gonna be like a forefront. They'll go to other people to like really get wild with that shit. But I guess like one I mean, Fresh and Fit had that whole thing where they talked about how they don't date black women, and they talked about it in a manner that went way beyond just like, I prefer dating this race because I'm attracted to whatever feature kind of stuff. It was like we don't date black women because they're ghetto, and like that type of shit.
Yeah.
That type of shit flies all the time in the manosphere because of the, I guess like the like biblical like status that you attain when you grow an audience of people that um look to you as like prophets of masculinity, and that type of shit is like I didn't even touch on that, and I wish I would have. I don't like I didn't see any of that stuff when I did a video on Fresh and Fit, but like th- that's yeah, it's a huge part of it. And I don't know, like the metrics of repression are all intersecting as
Yeah.
always, like misogyny, racism, like homophobia. It's all connected in different ways. It just needs to be mapped out. But in terms of my experiences, it's generally just seeing that happen to other people and being like, damn, this is this just keeps getting worse, and somebody should do something about this. I don't know.
Well, all right. Well, let's we can we can probably move into like more positive stuff now that we've spent an hour uh poisoning our souls by talking about this.
Yeah.
What like what's going on for you in the future? Like what's Noah looking to do with because like you're a YouTuber and I don't know, like I'm always curious like where people are trying to take their stuff and like what your sights are set on and like where do you see Noah in like a year from now, 2 years from now?
I'm someone that has like very bad foresight in terms of like planning out like my life. So I'm super, oh, I'll make this video on this thing, seems cool. I get paid at the end of the month. That's all right, cool. Let's do that again. And so but like lately within the last month I've been thinking more about like um a lot of people around me are like super talented artists and creators, and they know YouTube isn't an end goal. They want to like use it to build a platform to do art and things like that. And I'm super like I do like music streams and things like that. I like all that stuff. But I at this current time I'm
Yeah,
fine
I
with where
caught
I'm
one of
at.
your music streams. That was dope. Like
Oh,
I,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember
For
seeing you in the chat. Yeah, that
yeah, that was really cool.
oh, thanks. I appreciate it. It's like stuff like that is I always kind of viewed what I wanted to do as being like working in TV and film or like doing sketches and things like that. That's how I started making content on the internet through sketches. but right now I'm super engaged with YouTube and what I'm doing, and I hesitate to say it feels important, but I do feel like I can see tangible results in terms of people sort of being at least affected and being at least presented with an alternative viewpoint, which I really like. I like that, and so I'm super engaged in that manner. But I mean, a year down the line, I could be doing something different. I keep wanting to like start a different channel for this, a different channel for that, and I think I just need to get medicated for ADHD. I've been trying to get an appointment for a long time to sort of like figure that shit out, but uh right now I'm like I'm good with where I'm at, just making this stuff, and it feels very fun, meeting a lot of cool people, get to go on cool podcasts like this. What about you? What's in the plans for you?
Shit. My so right now I'm working 36 hours. Like I do 3 12-hour shifts in the hospital a week, and it's horrible. I'm in the emergency room and I literally just don't stop moving. And then on my 4 days off, I'm trying to get a Salesforce certification, which is like this back end like IT like thing, and basically just like sell my soul to some like corporate entity who's doing not horrible evil shit or the least evil shit possible.
Nice.
And you can it's a very easy way to get like a it's not easy, it's a difficult cert to get, but once you get it, it's basically guaranteed um, a livable wage, and you can find work from home stuff, and it's not that much work. So like that would afford me more time to work on more creative stuff. I have all of the like you can see back here like little mannequins and shit, like that's a bunch of first aid stuff, and I have like a series of like 12 first aid videos that I want to make for like people who are going out and protesting and stuff. And I have a novel that I want to write and a whole bunch of other shit, but like write. And I'm starting this new podcast with Bellamy and Finn specifically about like positive masculinity and like combating the manosphere. But I really just want to get out of healthcare, and then hopefully have more time to pursue those other things. Where ideally, I would like to be able to do more creative stuff. So that's where I'm hoping. I'm hoping in a year from now, I'll be able to be working from home and then have more time to throw into like creative endeavors and hopefully make a bigger impact on the world. Um, at a minimum, I would like to not be in an emergency room.
Yeah, I mean, you deserve it, man. I think like what you're doing with this like podcast, just I've watched a ton of them. I'm like,
Well, thank you.
the leftist Joe Rogan thing is like we need that, and like you're a very good interviewer and podcaster, and I
Oh,
hope
thank you.
this like takes off, because I mean I think it will. I think it's inevitable, but I'm
I
stoked for
appreciate
you,
that
man.
very much. Thank you.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, and I also stand your content as well. We're maybe that's a good maybe that's a good spot to end this on, is let's fanboy over people that we really like
Perfect.
and like drive
Exactly.
traffic to folks. So like why don't you name off a bunch of folks that you think everybody should go check out, and I'll put them in the comment section, and then I'll do the same, and then we can, or I'll tell you what, I'll do it first and then you get the final word on who the dopest people are.
Sounds good.
So everybody, let's see, who haven't we talked about? We've got We're in Hell, Chill Goblin. We've got Bellamy Rhea, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Aeronaut is really good. Um, some more Imperial News, if you're a Canadian and a lefty, is a good Twitch stream. Who else do I want to spread the love to? That's not already got like 30,000 subscribers. um, Adnan, the one who's been a guest on the show, does like comics and guest appearances, and John the Duncan, and the ADD's kicking in. If I forgot you, I'm sorry. I love you. It's not a personal thing. Who Noah want to shout out?
I'd like to shout out, I think like everybody that I'll just like go through like
I'm sorry.
FD, Chill Goblin.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nancy's Library is another really great one that everybody should check out.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Sorry.
Shout out to Shark, the streamer. No, you're good. Shark 300, super good dude. Good masculinity resources. I mean, I made a little playlist called the Manosphere Deprogramming playlist,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, that's
has
great.
some videos on it. I'll link it. It like anyone I would mention would probably be on that playlist. And then trying to think any smaller people. I
Oh,
know. Yeah.
fuck. Lost Futures is an up and coming lefty YouTuber who is doing really good shit. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And then Turb, TIRRRB. Turb is super cool. Got a big video. He's got a big video coming out soon that I'm super excited for. But yeah, I'll link that. I mean, you probably have a link to that playlist, but that would be good to throw in. And then if I think of anyone else, I will message you because I'm just bad at like compiling.
Yeah. But I think and all the Red Planet crew.
Yes,
like
for
that.
sure.
Yeah, the Red Planet crew. Who's Sophie and Conquest of Dread and Mule and Kira Chats. But yeah, there's just so many really good people out there who like deserve like I think we should show love and who's this other person? Hold on, I want to shout them out because they are going to be at some point. I'm going to get this person on the show. A World to Win. They do like breakdown of like lefty theory, and then yeah, that's all I can remember off the top of my head. Yeah, like I think what would you say like to anybody who's out there coming up in the world and like Little Hoot who just popped up on my Twitter feed is another good
Oh
one.
yeah.
Kalen Conrad. So just check the down there part for a list of all these people. If you don't know who they are, you should go follow them.
Yeah.
What would you say to like folks that are out there that are like coming up in the world and like trying to make their mark artistically? Like, do you have any like sage advice for them? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
No. I'm trying to think like I get asked this often and I always don't know what to say because like no, it is just put stuff out. Like no matter if you're depressed and shit, which if you want to be an artist, you probably are. Like it's you get that shit figured out and everything. You try your hardest. You got to stay afloat. All that stuff. But if you got to put stuff out, like you got to go flex the muscle, the creativity muscle, and like create something. And again, not any timeline thing, but if it's something you want to do, you will get good at it if you keep putting out stuff. Like a really good thing I've heard a few times in different videos is like, if you're making something and you're proud of it and you put it out, even if you're going to look back on it and think it's bad, but the fact that you know what you like consuming and you know what good art is because you have good taste means that you will inevitably grow and learn because you know what you made might not be the same or as good, but you know it's good enough to put out. You know you're proud enough to make it and put it out there. Then just repeat that process and you'll not gonna say you're gonna make it because it's extremely unlikely, but that's the only way to do it is to just keep putting stuff out, generally speaking. So
okay. Yeah. Just keep putting stuff out and make sure it's something that you're invested in and proud of. Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Well, I think that's a good, uplifting, wholesome spot to end us on. Noah Samsen, thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to plug your pluggables and tell everybody where to find you?
Find me Noah Samsen and then N Samsen on Twitter, and then it'll probably be in the description. I hope.
No, I'm actually gonna like plug everybody but you.
Censor my face the whole podcast and just no.
Yeah, I'm gonna put
Ultraviolet
like
episode whatever with Mystery Man.
Yeah,
don't subscribe.
All right.
All right.
No, Samsen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Hey there, folks. Mark Edwards again, and I just wanted to thank you for joining me and listening to the show. always great to have you. Always appreciate the listen. If you want to support the show and get your name up here, around here somewhere with all these really dope, awesome people, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon. There's no donation limit. You can give $1 a month. You can give me $100 a month, whatever it is in your heart and ability to give. It is always very much appreciated. It helps keep the lights on over here, all the really cool new lights even that we have. This is the recording studio / office in what I believe will be its final form. So hopefully that's a little better to look at than things have been. But yeah, any donation that you can provide helps. If you don't want to become a monthly supporter, you can always hit me up on Venmo, Coffee, PayPal. All of that stuff is at UltravioletPod, and I would really appreciate it. If you are not able to support the show financially, I totally get that. If you are not in a place where you can part with any amount of money at any frequency, I totally understand. I have been there. I don't want your money. I want you to keep it and use it for stuff that you need. However, you can still support the show. You can like and subscribe. You can hit the little bell thing to get a notification when I have a new episode out because the algorithm hates me. You can upvote or like or 5 stars or whatever the fuck it is that you're able to do on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you find my content. Upvote it, leave a review, leave a comment. All of that really helps with engagement, and it helps get the word out, which helps bring more people in, which ultimately helps me. So all of that's very important, and I appreciate every one of you that does that. If you would like to follow me on social media, I am mostly active and really annoying on Twitter. I also have an Instagram and a TikTok. I don't really use them very frequently. Instagram is mostly pictures of my cat, and I've never posted anything on TikTok, but I will maybe at some point. I don't know. If you like to infrequently watch somebody play random video games that they'll never finish, I am also on Twitch at UVPod. And that's pretty much it. We listed off a lot of people at the end there, all of whom are really wonderful and great. There's also a lot more people that you should follow. There will be links to all those people in the down there part, and any new folks that we think of in the meantime. So definitely go check those people out if you've never heard of them, or if you want to kind of expand your horizons to various creators. All are highly recommended. As far as other lefty content creators that when we were shouting out there at the end, one person who I forgot in the moment to name, but who I definitely want to shout out, is a dude named Guitar Guy Nick. He is on YouTube and Twitter. You'll find links in the down there part. But he is a guitar instructor, and he has a YouTube channel where he teaches music, and he's very, very good at that. And he's also just a really solid dude. He once actually just spent a whole day teaching me how to use Foundry. He's a professional DM as well. When I was starting up my Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and he just did that out of the kindness of his heart. So, very good dude, very cool guy. If you want to learn how to play guitar and learn about music, definitely the place to go. And he's, also a comrade, so highly recommended. Definitely go check him out. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.